The fate of the Resistance has always been one of the biggest questions left at the end of The Last Jedi, as when we last see them, there's only about 15 or so members who survived the Battle of Crate. And yet, from that small group with no ships or resources, somehow in a span of a year, transforms into a fully capable fleet strong enough to take on a First Order battle cruiser. But how exactly does this happen, and will we get to see the Resistance rebuild in the Rise of Skywalker? And well, unfortunately, most likely not. Granted, there is a chance that there may be a throwaway sentence or two about the Resistance getting back on its feet after Crate in the Episode 9 opening crawl, but that's about as much as we could hope for. Especially considering how much story Rise of Skywalker is supposed to deliver and pack into what I'm assuming will be a 2-hour runtime. Then all things considered, how the Resistance built itself back up after Crate will be only an afterthought for JJ. And seeing how the movie takes place 1 year after the events of The Last Jedi, then it's possible JJ will expect the casual moviegoer to use their imagination to fill in the holes while he focuses on the now more than the before. Kind of like the First Order's origin story back in The Force Awakens, or therefore lack of. Instead, we're gonna have to turn to the auxiliary material for the answer here, and fortunately there is one. Resistance Reborn, which is an upcoming novel by Rebecca Roundhorse, is expected to explain and go into detail about exactly this. How the heck the Resistance went from 15 people on an antique ship back into an organization that could possibly pose a threat to the galaxy-spanning First Order. The book itself won't be released until November 5th, but thanks to its summary and another book, we can already start piecing things together and get a better grasp of what the Resistance's next moves were after Crate. According to the summary, the Resistance is in ruins. In the wake of their harrowing escape from Crate, what was once an army has been reduced to a handful of wounded heroes. Finn, Poe, Rey, Rose, Chewbacca, Leia, Organa, their names are famous among the oppressed worlds they fight to liberate. But names can only get you so far, and Leia's last desperate call for aid has gone unanswered. From the jungles of Ryloth to the shipyards of Corellia, the shadow of the First Order looms large, and those of the bravery to face the darkness are scattered and isolated. If hope is to survive, the Resistance must journey throughout the galaxy, seeking out more leaders, including those who, in days gone by, helped a nascent rebellion topple an empire. Battles will be fought, alliances will be forged, and the Resistance will be reborn. So already the summary tells us a couple of things. After the Battle of Crate, the First Order has pretty much started dominating plenty of different worlds in the galaxy. Those left over in the Resistance in turn spread out and go to these worlds like Ryloth and Corellia and help them in their fight against the First Order. In addition, it also sounds like Leia will look to past allies that were part of the Rebel Alliance and try to get them to join the Resistance. And based on what we saw from the Resistance's new fleet and those Mon Calamari cruisers, then it's a pretty safe bet that Leia will look toward recruiting the Mon Calamari to the Resistance. As remember, while the Mon Calamari were part of the Rebel Alliance, they were never with the Resistance. Only Admiral Akbar, who was talked into out of retirement by Leia, joined the Resistance, and he was able to bring his small Mon Calamari crew from the Rebellion days to come along with him. But the planet of Mon Cala, like the New Republic, didn't take the Resistance seriously and wanted no part in it. However, after Starkiller's attack on the New Republic and the First Order threat looming over Mon Cala, then they will of course have a change of heart regarding Leia and her Resistance movement. Another book, Galaxy's Edge Black Spire, also gives us a bit more detail on the Resistance's state after Crate. As it tells us, Leia contacted all her spies and gave them new orders after Crate. Hide, recruit allies, gather ships, collect fuel and weapons, rebuild, go far away from the target on my back and find a way to help us get back on our feet again. So as it sounds based on this, the Resistance landed on Saria 4 months after Crate. Then the small leftovers of the Resistance essentially spread out into the galaxy, which is now at war with the First Order, and each of them is tasked with something different, whether it be collecting fuel or recruiting allies. Leia, I'm sure, will be the one who will focus the most on reconnecting with her former allies from the Rebellion days, while other members like Rose would probably go after fuel or weapons, I'm guessing. From what we know with certainty in canon at the moment, Galaxy's Edge tells us that the Resistance has already set up shop on Black Spire Outpost on Batuu thanks to Resistance spy V. Moradi. And with Batuu being a populated world, she's not only able to find potential recruits, but as well have easier access to fuel and weapons. What we also know from the comics is that post-Black Squadron, who were away doing scouting missions during the Battle of Crate, later ended up aiding the struggling Ikrukians against the invading First Order. Of course, that task ended up being far too much for them to handle, so Poe, who was re-promoted back to Commander, flew to Ikruk with a ship he borrowed from Grakkus the Hutt. With Poe's help, Black Squadron took out the First Order heavy cruiser invading the planet, and in return, Ikruk allied with the Resistance. Now for the moment, we're still missing some key details regarding the Resistance's rebirth. We know only broad strokes, such as that they've spread out into the galaxy, have allied so far with the Ikruk and presumably with the Mon Calamari, but not much else yet. The book Resistance Reborn specifically also mentions Ryloth, which does make me curious. Will Leia look to recruit Hera or Vincham Syndulla to the Resistance? Or what about Corellia? Will Lady Proxima join the fight against the First Order too, or maybe Wedge Antilles, who was also from Corellia? These questions and more will certainly be answered in Resistance Reborn, but at least for now, we've already got a pretty good idea on what the Resistance did after Crate, and based on their fleet in Rise of Skywalker, Leia's plan seems to have worked. Now, will it be enough to tackle the entire First Order fleet along with the Sith fleet from the unknown regions? Well, that's something I'm very confident JJ will be able to answer in Rise of Skywalker. N7 from Silo, signing out.